maybe one should start really by reflecting a bit on what that actually means, the triangle. I started without much thought on the presumption that the triangle would be having the following corners: the European Council President, the High Representative, and the rotating presidency. It only occurred to me afterwards that Paolo might have had different corners in mind, and that the Commission President might have been one of the corners. But then again, the thoughts about the rotating presidency, some of which I've already shared, I think still apply. So that's where Bruno's reference to the rectangle comes in. And then as I was looking at this balance of power among the interinstitutional relations and so on, I think one wouldn't want to exclude necessarily the European Parliament either. And the first point I wanted to make was how this whole European Council President idea came about. And in this simplistic fashion, one has to, I think, say that there was a debate between the more communitarian-minded countries, essentially the smaller ones, the more federal-minded, if one can say that, who were on the one hand wanting to strengthen the Commission and on the other hand wanting to maintain the rotating presidency. And then other countries, essentially the larger countries, who were concerned about what enlargement and so on would do to the rotating presidency and wanted to strengthen not the Commission President, but a counterweight in the Council. And that what we have now, which has brought about the European Council President and the High Representative as, if you want, counterweights to the Commission President, is essentially a compromise that tries to combine a bit of both. Because the inclusion of the High Representative as Vice President of the Commission is, of course, the way in which also the Commission is supposed to gain something from this. Maybe a side observation, this idea of having an elected or appointed European Council President is not new, and I don't know if that was the first time it came up, but I believe that Giscard d'Estaing already proposed this in the 1970s when he was chairing I think the Fontainebleau Summit. So that idea has been around for a long time. I think it's probably fair to say it's an essentially French idea to have this sort of strengthening of the Council vis-à-vis the Commission. And in a sense, it's interesting that now, after such a long time, we have this in practice. Whether it will really deliver on supporting member states vis-à-vis the Commission, I think is something to see. And Maries and I, we already just discussed it, and I think that's really something to see in the future. In terms of the impact that this has on the Commission, just to expand a bit on what I tried to say before, it's an odd situation that on several passages in the treaty, Commission and High Representatives are positioned, as it were, in opposition to one another. It's either the Commission or the High Representatives who are doing something. I think the logic behind that is clearly that the High Representative is separate from the Commission. And to be honest, that's also how I see it. Like I said before, I see the High Representative with the External Action Service as an emerging separate institution. But it doesn't change the fact that it's also, of course, a Vice President of the Commission, and therefore somewhat part of the Commission hierarchy. I think there's some interesting and maybe difficult times ahead for the Commission in trying to make sense of this. The Commission having this very sophisticated internal coordination mechanism, quite a strong sense of hierarchy inside the European Commission, and this High Representative will be a kind of, I think, quite disturbing factor within that. And I don't mean that the Commission President will have necessarily difficulty with the Vice President. I think on the whole that looks like to be going quite well, but I think administratively, institutionally, I think this is a very, very odd situation that has the potential for some difficulty. Now, let's not go too much into the, like I said, obvious facts about what the treaty says on each of those each institutions. What I didn't write down here, this was my oversight, was to say a word about the Commission President as part of this, let's say, rectangle for now. Most commentaries have said that the Commission President has been strengthened by the Lisbon Treaty. That's essentially on the basis of A, now being elected as opposed to being appointed, and having greater legitimacy that comes out of that. But also having specified in the treaty that he is laying down the guidelines for the Commission as a whole and has a task to ensure consistency So there's the idea that he has some sort of competence vis-a-vis the commissioners. And I think that's, like I said before, that's going to be interesting to see how that strengthening of the Commission President will work with this counter trend of removing important parts of the Commission and giving such a separate, distinct authority to the High Representative.